Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. We have a special guest with us here in studio, Sherry Strong.
Hello.
Right on. So you're about to hear an unconventional approach to nutrition. Sherry's a food philosopher, a Renaissance woman, an all-around great gal. You've been on the path of health, food, nutrition, not only for yourself, but helping
Yes.
other people, like super active.
Yeah.
We met how many years ago?
Well, it's probably, I think, 14.
14 years
About
ago.
14 years
Yeah,
ago, yeah.
amazing. So we've been in each other's kind of circles, and you've
Yeah.
lived in Australia, and here you are back in Alberta.
After 11 years in Vancouver, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yes.
Alberta feels good, doesn't it?
Well, I tell you, when I came here, I did not know, that it would have this feeling now. I came when it was full on lockdown.
Oh,
In
right.
fact, I came and had a chat with you. We had a walk,
We did.
and I was in a very dark place.
Yeah.
I was feeling massive stress and had no idea that we'd be feeling the excitement and enthusiasm that we're actually feeling now.
Yeah.
Even though, it's measured, it's cautious,
Yeah.
but it's a very exciting place to be. And I feel kind of, in a sense, I was divinely guided here
Yeah.
for many reasons. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor, and you're about to meet Sherry and hear all about kind of her food philosophy and approach to nutrition, which is a little, like I said at the beginning, a little more unconventional.
It is.
Yeah. So how about just give us kind of a quick kind of synopsis, background, where you've come from, what
Sure.
you're doing now, and then we'll kind of move forward from there.
Yeah. Well, when I use the term, I was recently called a Renaissance woman, and it's not the first time in my life. So when you asked, what are the labels, there's food philosopher and Renaissance woman, and in Australia, if you asked, what I was, they just say based on that I was a wanker. So
Yeah.
and they're kind of heady terms, but they're actually accurate about how I've actually lived my life. I've had a very diverse life, from studying, leaving school and studying to become a missionary, to being a celebrity chef nutritionist in Australia, to now, home caring my elderly parents and a baby that came into my life in the last 2 years. I've done things from a professional level of being like the Victorian Chair of Nutrition Australia, the curator and co-founder of the World Wellness Project. I had a cooking school in Melbourne, Holistic Cooking School in Melbourne, Holistic Cooking School in Vancouver. I taught at universities and institutions around the world. I've sat on boards that consulted to the Australian government on public health policy. And then there's another side to me where I've actually designed and made evening dresses and wedding gowns, and being an artist, and I've done over 7 television pilots, documentaries, voiceover for a children's cartoon. Like, it's basically anything creative. That's when people say, is there anything you can't do? I was like, yeah, my taxes.
Right. Yeah. And you're an author. You've
I'm
written
an
books.
author, yep. So I wrote and illustrated a book, yeah. So
Yeah.
I've been a chef in high-end restaurants in Melbourne. And a journalist, so, and given like a TEDx talk when that was actually a cool thing to do.
Right.
In Tokyo.
Cool.
So I think there's over 750,000 views on that one. So for a
Wow.
TED talk, it's modest, but
Yeah. No, but that's awesome.
not many people have entered a stadium with that many people in it, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. The
So-
power of the internet.
Yeah, so the Renaissance piece is probably the creative thing, and now I'm actually working with a really interesting company, Alberta Free, and basically on my card is Renaissance Woman, because
Amazing.
they are into Renaissance thinking, and all the creative things that I've done from the marketing point of view and running events, I'm now able to use and channel
Right.
with them, while still being able to do things like this in my own work. And they don't just give lip service to respecting me caring for my parents and
Right.
little Willow. They facilitate me being able to do that. So
Wow.
that's where, I remember thinking, being an independent entrepreneur, particularly and a speaker, it's like this, speaking,
Right.
professional speaking is like that. And then I thought, where am I going to find a company that would actually understand how quirky I am, that would actually enjoy paying me? And I found it, and that feels one of the things that's being divine about coming back to Alberta.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'd love to hear it. And let's dive into,
Okay.
of all these hats that you wear, all the roles that
Yeah.
you've played, especially within the field of nutrition.
Yes.
What's kind of like the big message that you're putting out there, like have
Yeah.
been and currently now?
Yeah. Well, when I came back to Alberta, I was in a really dark place. I was fearful about the world, and what was actually happening to our freedoms, all those kinds of things. And I'd had a whole kind of backstory to coming here where literally because of COVID, my life kind of imploded. Work completely imploded, and because I was vocal, getting speaking work again in the normal sphere, I knew was not
Right.
likely. Like even in the nutrition world, like nutrition colleges who sold out and took COVID money were not going to then hire me to speak at their conference. Right?
Career suicide.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But it was a matter of integrity for yourself.
Yeah, and I've had many tests along the road that never, to me, wasn't even a test. Like I remember a time when I couldn't figure out where my rent was coming from, and I was offered a commercial for $120,000, for 2 days' work.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, well, what's the product? Oh, it's great, my agent says. It's a calcium fortified milk for children called Calcium.
Oh.
With nasty calcium, nasty sugars, nasty flavorings, nasty colors,
Right.
but great for kids, right?
Yeah.
So to me, people say, oh, what a moral, it wasn't even a moral dilemma.
Right.
It was like,
just so clear.
there's different ways to commit career suicide, right? So it's like, it's just selling out to the dark side.
Right.
For me, anyway.
Before you said milk, I was like, was it margarine?
There's probably margarine in it. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely would have been some nasty things in there. So I think probably the piece of coming here was I was actually worried that, what was I actually going to do for income? I was not going to wear a muzzle.
Yeah.
Right? There's just no way I was going to do that. I was never going to take an injection. That was just never. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I actually wondered, well, if the world's falling apart, who cares about nutrition? I want to eat, drink, and be merry,
Right.
or be sherry, which involves eating and drinking, right? So so I came back and I wasn't actually eating that great, and I wondered what value I actually had to my community with my skills. And then taking care of my parents was a good thing. Then I had this baby come into my life, 1 month old baby. I was never able to have children, so being able to help care for a baby 8 to 10 days a month. I remember the first time I was driving home with this baby and thinking, I can't believe they're letting me take a baby home. I can't believe they're trusting me not to keep driving. And then I started working with Children's Health Defense.
Right.
And that was really important. So far to date, I've done over 100 interviews with them. But something happened this last year. I got sick, and my parents got sick. We all got sick. And I believe that a larger part of it was environmental, because we do eat pretty clean, passionate about, spring water, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But it made me realize a weak population is really easy to overcome.
Right.
And we're living in a world right now that we have a lot of excuses to eat, drink, and be merry, and numb ourselves and desensitize our bodies with things that are addictive, and toxic and weakening ultimately. And I knew we actually had to get back to being strong. So strong choices for a strong life was a phrase that I had used in my marketing terms for many years, but I wasn't feeling it. And so I knew I needed to get back to doing it. And so the interesting thing is I ran an event just recently in Edmonton. And in 11 years in Vancouver, even though I did television and high profile events, corporate speaking, taught at nutrition schools, I could never get more than 50 people to an event. I've only been here 2 years, and I had 75 people at my first event.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I was pretty excited, and it kind of felt, it felt great to get back to teaching. But two, I teach, there's a classic term, you teach what you most need to learn.
Yeah.
And so by teaching, I'm more present to actually taking care of myself.
Right.
And what I often refer to myself as a highly flawed expert.
Right.
So I have this expertise and a way of teaching. I believe, I've been given these philosophies. I asked for them. I asked for ways of explaining, because in all my positions of influence in speaking, what I found was my colleagues were just as confused as I was.
Right.
Or even worse, they had certainty and arrogance about what they knew that was clearly not true.
Yeah.
Like, refined dairy and refined sugar and all those things being, they're all right for us.
Right.
These chemicals in our food are all right for us, right? So I thought, how do we actually, know how we're meant to eat? What's a way of actually explaining it so people understand? And I was walking, walk out each day in nature and ask that question. And one day I got a download, and it was like, boom, and it was nature's principle. It was the first philosophy, and it's nature tells us what to eat and the quantities to eat by how easily it's attained in nature, when it's attained in nature. So that which is most abundant, we're meant to have most of. There's a hierarchy in nature that teaches us that. Harder to obtain in nature, we require less of it, and we have to work harder for it. So in nature, there's no such thing as obesity, because you work off way more energy than you actually can possibly consume as an individual, providing your own food. And the third area is, if you cannot get it in nature, not only do you not need it, it's harmful to the body and the planet. And unfortunately, most of us on the planet right now are eating from that third area. So harmful to us, harmful to the planet. And we're in a system, I believe, where we're set up to consume things that are doing things to our body that if we were forced to by a government, we'd say, no, I'm not putting that in my body. But when we have free will and
Right.
it's encouraged and it's socially acceptable and all those things, there's lots of pressure to eat that way. And it anesthetizes us from a very stressful, unnatural world we're living in.
Yeah.
We just feel stressed from being disconnected from nature.
Yeah.
Now there's millions of ways we're completely disconnected from nature and our own human nature. So the philosophical approach is about helping us understand how we're meant to eat as the human species. And I'm not going to tell you what to eat. I can definitely tell you what not to eat. That's really
Right.
easy.
Yeah,
That's what I call the lethal recipe,
Right.
which I talk about in my book. But I never tell people what to eat. I tell the basics. And the number one primary foundational is spring water, right?
Right.
It is our second most bioavailable nutrient. We're second most life dependent on, apart from air,
Yeah.
right? So, there I teach the hierarchy, and the hierarchy then teaches you how to make the decisions that you need to make for your own body. Because I'll get people who are like, just tell me what to eat, and I'll do it. Or how do you eat? I'll eat just like you will. And I was like, well, there's a few problems with that.
Yeah.
Number one, it's taken me 30 years to develop like my system, my kitchen, my preferences. And what's good for my body may not be good for yours.
Totally.
It may not work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Different times of life. And if I just tell you what to eat, I'm giving you a fish.
Right.
I want to teach you how to fish.
Yeah.
So that you can make those decisions that are most empowering, not only for your body, but for your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I'm sure what you ate changes.
It does.
So even for
It
you to
does.
say, oh, I must eat this way.
Absolutely. And that's an interesting thing too, because it's been a real humbling experience coming here. When you go from being picked up at the airport in a limo with your name to in the same day cleaning your mother's diaper and a baby diaper,
Right.
and not knowing, where your income's coming from, it's hugely humbling.
Yeah.
And from living beautiful Vancouver to, I won't tell you where I am, in Alberta, because I don't want to offend anyone, but it's a massive contrast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that humbling has come in a lot of forms. And because when people would say, but how do I eat this way in northern Alberta, or so and so, and I'd be like, well, if it's really important to you, you'll find a way.
Right.
Which there's an aspect of that's true, but there's also an aspect of reality that is very different. It's very hard. So I found when I first came here, I couldn't get the nutrition
Right.
that I'd actually had in Vancouver, or Melbourne, where I had farmers markets year round, where I could get lots of organic food. Where I am right now, there's over 170 stalls at the farmers market, and there's only one that sells organic food.
Right. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And we know with the prices of food, it's gone up. So I had a humbling on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
So, but what I came to the decision is that we really need to get strong, so that we're not overcome.
Yeah.
So that we're not mowed over. Weak people are easy to manipulate and overcome. So we need to get strong mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
Cool.
And the philosophies really encompass that.
And it's in your name, isn't it?
That's correct.
Sherry
Yes.
Strong.
That's it.
Teaching us how to get strong, lead the way. Yeah. And as you were talking about that, isn't it so often the case that we're given those situations, those scenarios, right? Like that which we need to learn. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, taking it on. So cool. Well, you're going to be here, joining us at Light Cellar. You'll be back March 5th.
Yes.
And it's going to be a whole deep dive afternoon. We've set up 4 hours with you, which is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So, did I say Saturday? Saturday, March 5th?
Sunday. It's a Sunday,
March 5th. Check your calendars, 2023, 1 till 5. And we'll have a little break in there. And opportunity for people to ask questions, but you're going to lead us through your philosophy.
Yes.
And you call this, I like the phrase, thrival of the wisest.
Yes.
Which is, a little spin on survival of the fittest.
That's correct. And it is because we don't just want to survive.
Yeah.
You know, we do want to survive, but we want to thrive. We want to go even better.
Totally.
You know, to have that sustained thing. And I don't believe it's going to be a matter of us getting more information. Like,
No.
this is not a class of learning about micronutrients and the intricate process of the digestive system and all that kind of thing, because, and here it is, the healthiest on the planet, cultures on the planet have no idea what the recommended intake of vitamin C is.
Yeah.
They have no idea how many grams of protein and should they mix certain foods,
Yeah.
right? We have to almost unlearn.
Yeah, totally.
And so wisdom is a piece that we need to come to.
Yeah.
And it's like I was saying before we started filming, is that it feels very, congruent to be doing it here, at the Light Cellar with you, because I so admire how you live wisely. I feel like you're an embodiment of the philosophies I teach.
And I'm a flawed expert too. We all are,
Yeah, we love our chocolate.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, if you gave me the choice between, okay, you can have all the latest scientific knowledge and breakthroughs and eat from that place, or you can eat from a very kind of like traditional, rudimentary, instinctual way, I would take that.
And here's the thing.
10 times out of 10.
One of the things is that from that place that you just referred to, you can be manipulated.
Right.
From this place, you can't be manipulated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So this is where we're going. We're basically saying, yeah, I get that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
But a lot of people geek out on the information.
Totally.
But it rarely shifts long-term behavioral change, particularly if there's an emotional component in the food. And that's one of the things that I've worked with, hundreds of people over the years with that emotional piece, because I was twice my size, not 10'4". I haven't had a massive height reduction, but yeah.
Let's say not that way.
Yeah. And I still work with it. Food. I always say that I don't know if there are past lives or if there's future lives, but if there is such a thing, I came to this incarnation for the food.
Right. For sure. It's like me and traveling. When you ever travel, it's all about the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The experience of it. So. Okay, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here and having a little chat. And if you are inspired, if you'd like to connect more deeply with Sherry, come visit us on March 5th. So lightcellar.ca. There's all the details, the registration. Would love to have you. It's going to be a great, gathering of like minds and really getting to, and hearts. Yeah, exactly. Really getting to the root of it, of what it means to be human and how to nourish ourselves in this world and navigate through, just the maze of confusing, contradictory nutritional information, coming back to that instinctual, intuitive source.
Come unlearn with me.
Right on. Good. Okay, well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up, share it out, and we'll love to see you on the 5th. Bye for now.